By the early 1930s, Kennecott, Alaska had become a paradox, a town brimming with monumental copper wealth, yet teetering on the edge of abandonment. On the surface, the mines glittered with the promise of prosperity. Workers moved along the icy corridors and red buildings like ants, hauling buckets of ore, repairing railways, and keeping machinery alive against the relentless Alaskan cold. To the untrained eye, Kennecott was a bustling marvel carved from ice, snow, and rock. But beneath the industrious rhythm, the town's fate had already been written in subtle whispers of decline. The richest veins of copper, which had first drawn J.P. Morgan's engineers and miners to this remote stretch of the Wrangell Mountains, were running out. Geological surveys, once optimistic, now revealed thinner seams, harder to extract, and less profitable. The very land that had promised abundance was becoming less generous with each passing season. Economics, too, played a decisive role. The global copper market was volatile. Prices had dipped sharply during the early Depression years, making the costly operation at Kennecott harder to sustain. Each ton of ore mined now demanded more labor, more energy, more risk, and yielded less reward. Investors began to hesitate, and letters from corporate offices in New York spoke quietly of scaling back operations. Meanwhile, Kennecott's geography, which had initially seemed an asset, became a liability. Winter storms trapped the town under thick layers of snow. Supplies arrived late or sometimes not at all. The railroad, which had been Kennecott's lifeline, required constant maintenance, vulnerable to avalanches, ice, and landslides. Even minor disruptions sent ripples through the town, turning small inconveniences into potentially catastrophic delays. Within the town, residents began to sense the looming end. Families who had once dreamed of raising generations here now debated departure. Children, who had learned to navigate the icy streets and steep trails like native inhabitants, were told they might have to leave when the mines eventually closed. Workers whispered about new job opportunities in Alaska's other mining districts or in faraway cities. The mood, once defined by the hum of productivity and the camaraderie of shared labor, grew anxious, tinged with melancholy. A deeper, more subtle factor hastened Kennecott's decline: the fragility of single-industry towns. Unlike larger cities, which could absorb shocks through diverse economies, Kennecott's existence depended almost entirely on copper extraction. When the veins began to thin and the markets fluctuated, there was no alternative livelihood to anchor the town. Once the mines slowed, everything else, the schools, the shops, the rail operations followed. By 1938, the signs of finality were undeniable. The mill ceased operation, the railway cars were dismantled, and families packed what little they could transport, leaving behind the structures that had been their home. Some locked doors carefully, as if hoping for a return that would never come. Others simply walked away, leaving furniture, tools, and belongings scattered like frozen footprints of a vanished community. Yet Kennecott's death was not violent. There were no fires, no catastrophic collapse. Instead, it was a quiet retreat, a slow fading, almost poetic in its inevitability. The town, carved into the mountains, was now left to the elements. Snow-reclaimed streets, winds howled through empty dormitories, rust and decay began their silent march across machinery and wooden beams. The red buildings, once vibrant and full of human energy, leaned gently into the silence. For decades afterward, Kennecott remained frozen in memory and landscape, a testament to human ambition and the limits imposed by nature, economy, and geography.
Historians, filmmakers, and adventurers would later traverse its abandoned streets, taking photographs, recording videos, and imagining the lives of the people who had built a city on copper and ice. In the end, Kennecott died not with drama, but as a result of the combined forces of geology, economy, and isolation. Its story is a reminder of the precarious balance that sustains human settlements, and how the richest dreams can falter when the earth itself no longer provides. The town's skeletal remains continue to whisper lessons about ambition, resilience, and impermanence to those who venture into the Wrangell Mountains today.
Nestled high in the Wrangell Mountains of Alaska, the town of Kennecott stood as a testament to ambition, industry, and eventual abandonment. Unlike other mining towns, its structures remained remarkably preserved, frozen in time like a photograph of a bustling community that vanished almost overnight. Visitors often described the eerie clarity with which the past seemed to linger. Every building, every street, every object a ghostly whisper of lives once lived. By the early 1900s, Kennecott had grown into a thriving mining hub, its economy fueled by rich copper deposits. Workers from across the country arrived, drawn by the promise of wages, opportunity, and the challenge of life at the edge of the wilderness. Wooden houses were built, schools opened, and small businesses thrived. For a time, it seemed the town might endure. A small slice of human resilience against the relentless Alaska winters. Yet, nature was an ever-present companion. Winters were brutal, bringing relentless snow and wind that could isolate the town for weeks. Rivers ran cold and fast, and avalanches threatened those who dared to work in the mines during stormy months. Life demanded vigilance, courage, and a willingness to confront danger daily. Families adapted, carving routines around the harsh climate, finding warmth in close quarters and community gatherings. As the copper veins slowly depleted, the town's lifeblood began to wane. By the 1930s, production had fallen, and the company overseeing Kennecott started to withdraw its operations. Workers left in droves, families packed belongings, and buildings once filled with laughter and commerce stood quiet. But unlike many other mining towns, Kennecott was left intact. Houses remained locked, furniture undisturbed, tools still in place, and the mill stood like a frozen monument to the industrious era it had witnessed. Walking through Kennecott today is akin to stepping into a time capsule. The main street stretches with its wooden sidewalks still intact, windows reflecting sunlight but revealing nothing of human activity inside. The town hall, school, and hospital remain in eerie perfection, their interiors a silent testimony to the people who once animated these spaces. Tourists often pause, struck by the odd intimacy of absence, the way a simple table or chair can evoke decades of human emotion. The preservation is not just structural, but atmospheric. Snowdrifts linger where children once played, and the wind whistles through empty corridors as though carrying the voices of the past. Occasionally, curious explorers spot a swing moving slightly in the playground, stirred by gusts of wind, yet their minds connect it to memories of playtime long ended. Such subtle allusions amplify the haunting quality, making the town feel almost alive despite decades of desolation. Historians and preservationists have worked diligently to maintain Kennecott, ensuring that its status as America's most intact ghost town endures. Wooden beams are stabilized, roofs repaired, and signage preserved. Visitors are reminded to tread lightly, not just out of safety, but out of respect for the fragile history surrounding them. Every step on the sidewalks is a walk through memory, a meditation on the fleeting nature of human ambition against the patient persistence of nature. Kennecott's story also resonates as a lesson in impermanence. The wealth extracted from the copper veins fueled an industry far beyond the mountains, yet the town itself could not survive the depletion of its resource. Its survival today, in preserved form, is owed to abandonment rather than continued habitation. There is a quiet poetry in this paradox, a town preserved by absence, speaking more clearly through its emptiness than many towns speak through life. As evening falls, Kennecott transforms further. Shadows lengthen across empty streets, and snow glows with the soft light of the setting sun. Faint wisps of smoke from old chimneys, carried on the wind, create the illusion of activity, while distant mountains frame the town like guardians of its history. It is a place where visitors can feel the weight of time, the resilience of structures, and the echoes of ambition, all suspended in an eerie calm that only a ghost town of such preservation can offer.
Kennecott, in its intact state, reminds us that human endeavor is temporary, yet memory and preservation can give it a second life. It is a ghost town, yes, but it is also a storyteller, a town that speaks without voices, narrates without movement, and teaches without intervention. For anyone seeking to understand the fleeting intersection of human industry and nature's endurance, Kennecott stands as both lesson and marvel. The sun dipped low behind the jagged peaks of the Wrangell Mountains, casting long shadows across Kennecott's deserted streets. The copper mill, once a monument to human ambition, now stood as a skeleton of rusted steel and fractured timber. Snow drifted lazily over the rooftops, the wind whispering through broken windows, carrying faint echoes of a life long gone. Here, in this frozen enclave, the past refused to settle quietly. It lingered, heavy in the air, a presence more palpable than the chill biting through worn coats. Walking along the main thoroughfare, the remnants of wooden sidewalks groaned underfoot. Each step carried the weight of history, the clatter of boots from miners rushing to the mill, the laughter of children chasing sleds, the whispered conversations of families building a life at the edge of the world. Now only silence answered. Yet, in the silence, one could sense the echoes of what had once been, a memory etched into the very timbers and stone. At the corner near the old general store, a stack of letters, yellowed with age, peeked from the snow. They had been abandoned decades ago, their ink faded, messages of hope and fear mingling with the dust of years. A few envelopes bore the marks of hurried departure, the remnants of decisions made under pressure, families choosing survival over attachment, leaving behind not just possessions, but lives intertwined with the unforgiving land. The letters, half buried, were artifacts of human tenacity and the invisible cost of ambition. Inside the copper mill, rusted beams arched like skeletal ribs. Machines, long silent, still carried the weight of their past purpose. Conveyor belts frozen mid-motion, copper ore left unprocessed, tools scattered in haphazard piles. All spoke of a sudden halt, a town that had once thrummed with productivity and now slept beneath a layer of frost. The air was cold and dry, but there was warmth in the memory of effort, the human will pushing against isolation and adversity. The mill had been more than a workplace. It had been a heartbeat of the town, a place where the ambitions of men and women had merged with the raw challenge of the Alaskan wilderness. Outside, the wind carried a thin veil of snow across empty yards. Garden beds, long untended, showed signs of survival against the odds. Hardy perennials breaking through icy soil, a reminder that even in abandonment, life persists. The homes, doors hanging crooked, windows staring like eyes frozen in mid-expression, told stories of families who had lived, loved, argued, and thrived despite isolation. And yet, their absence transformed these signs of life into markers of loss. What remained was memory and structure. What was lost were the people, their voices, their laughter, the warmth of day-to-day existence. High above, the mountains watched like silent sentinels. Peaks glinted under the last rays of sunlight, and distant glaciers shimmered with quiet majesty. The landscape had endured long before human ambition, and it would endure long after. Kennecott had been ambitious, daring, and fleeting, a testament to the transient nature of human endeavor against the permanence of earth and ice. Visitors occasionally wandered these streets, cameras in hand, recording the juxtaposition of decay and beauty. They marveled at the intact structures, the clarity with which history had left its mark, and the eerie calm that settled over the town. The silence, almost palpable, demanded respect. The story of Kennecott was one of triumph and tragedy, of human ingenuity pressed against the unyielding frontier, and of choices that led to both survival and abandonment. By twilight, the town glowed softly under the dim evening light. Shadows stretched long across the snow-covered streets, and the copper mill loomed, dark and silent, yet alive with memory. Every structure, every artifact, every footstep on the creaking wood whispered a singular truth. Kennecott would remain, not as a place of daily life, but as a monument to what had been achieved and what had been surrendered. The town's legacy was a careful balance between resilience and fragility, between human dreams and nature's dominion, between what remained and what was forever lost. Kennecott slept, but its story endured, etched into timber, stone, and snow. And for those who paused to listen, who walked its empty streets with reverence, the town spoke quietly of ambition, of labor, of life at the edge of the world, and of the enduring echoes left behind when people and purpose move on. Join us for the next story. Please like and subscribe to stay with us.